So today we're here with.
Hi, I'm Richard D. Lewis, the Paranormal Christian.
So what made you start this book that you have?
Well, I'm a UFO witness, and I grew up experiencing the supernatural, and but I'm also a Christian. So for me, you go to church and you learn about some things, but a lot of these more mysterious, esoteric concepts aren't always addressed by the clergy. And we have questions. I mean, everybody has ghost stories and experiences, and they want to make sense of it all. So what I've attempted to do with my brand here, the Paranormal Christian, is to try to take and examine these from a sound biblical perspective, but also using anecdotal evidence, scientific evidence, and trying to bring it all together so that we can all make sense of it, and understand, why we're here, what we're doing here on planet Earth.
What part of biblical history do you try to tie it to?
Well, everything. The paranormal and the Bible should not be separate, and that's the thing that I'm trying to let people know, because paranormal simply means supernatural, and if you look at the Bible, it is a supernatural proof text or a paranormal book, basically from cover to cover. So anything that's relevant, a lot of Christians they don't have a problem accepting the immaculate conception of Jesus Christ, the resurrection, walking on the water, and the disciples even thought Jesus was a ghost when they saw him walking on the water, and when he appeared after his resurrection. So there was an implicit belief in ghosts. Maybe even I could point to reincarnation in the Bible. There's even people would say UFOs, but I make sense of all of it without contradicting the faith or the Bible, and while still being very respectful to the paranormal community as well. So it's a big job, but I'm happy to do it.
So where did you have your first UFO sighting?
Well, I'm actually an Air Force veteran and Space Force veteran. So I've had some experience being around the military, being around high tech aircraft, the kind of stuff that was developed at Area 51. I've seen it close up. I've been around every major rocket launch from the Atlas V to the Delta IV, the Minotaur rockets. I've even seen the space shuttle launch. I've seen satellites. I've seen satellites both in development, going through learning what the rigors of space are, all the way to even from Earth viewing the ISS, the International Space Station, and what that looks like. So I've got a good trained eye on what our stuff looks like, and so if something's outside of that, I'm pretty keen to notice, because I'm a huge sky watcher. I have been since I was a little kid, and it's not common to see something that would be unidentified. But if it is unidentified, that shouldn't be a stigma, because it's just unidentified until you know what it is. But I have had two sightings in my experience. The first one was in Colorado Springs many years ago, which is where the Air Force Academy is, where Peterson Air Force Base is. At the time, Falcon Air Force Station, and also not far from there is Cheyenne, Wyoming, where our NORAD headquarters is. So, so one of the sightings I had there was a red orb, and it was actually on Academy Boulevard. I was traveling home one night, and this was in the late '80s. There were a lot of people that actually pulled their cars off to the side of the road to take a look at it. Now, this was, you know, over 30 years ago. If it happened today, I would just think, oh, that's a drone, and just move along. Back then, we didn't have that drone technology, or at least that we know of, right? So that was an interesting sighting. I went right home and told my wife about it, and turned on the news, tried to find something on the local news. Well, back then, it wasn't a very friendly topic for the local news, even if the sighting was reported by anybody else to MUFON or whatever else. But I even called NORAD. I called NORAD a couple of days later, and I spoke to one of the public affairs NCOs there. By the way, these opinions of mine, my viewpoints and opinions are those of my own, and not necessarily the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Space Force. So I just got to put that out there. But the NORAD sergeant was very kind, and but he basically gave me the whole talking points that they've had since Project Blue Book. So we don't know we don't know of anything that's out there or whatever, but we don't have any information here, kind of thing. So and then later on, I had another sighting many years later in Borrego Springs in 2016, and I come to find out that's actually a hotspot for UFOs. It's also a great dark sky night watching type place, because I was there just to do some sky watching, and I saw a kind of an opening, like an oval shaped whitish um, uh, image that in the very fabric of this night sky, space, dark, inky black, and it was just like an oval opening and then closing. And I had no idea what I saw at the time, uh, but who knows? Was it a portal opening? It was definitely nothing conventional. I can tell you that. So those are kind of the biggies for me for UFOs. I've also written about UFOs in my latest book, The Paranormal Christian, Book Two. I devote about 20% of the book just to the topic of UFOs. It's a multifaceted topic. It's not a one simple explanation, but it's something that I feel passionate about ever since I was a little kid. And actually, I'm a featured speaker at the UFO Con in San Diego coming up, so you can check me out there as well. So again, it's Richard Lewis. That's richarddlewisauthor.com. So many blessings to all of you.
Can you get into more about Project Blue Book or?
Oh, Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book's fantastic. And again, in my book, The Paranormal Christian Book 2, I go through the whole history of UFOs. But Project Blue Book was actually not the first official project. There was Project Score. Score. There were other. There were things that led up to the Project Blue Book, but the Project Blue Book was really the big one that kind of like put it all together. That's where Dr. J. Island Hynek was brought in to do his. He was an astronomer and a scientist, and so they wanted that scientific perspective. He started out as a skeptic, and he was basically hired to debunk all the sightings, the swamp gas and things like that. But later on, he became more convinced of something there. And then towards the end, he was working with Jacques Vallée, who was a proponent of the ultra dimensional theory, which I think has a lot of merit. So I talk about that in my book series, The Paranormal Christian. So yeah, Project Blue Book's very informative. And out of all the cases, there were some that were unsolved, and so you just have to wonder what those things really were.
You want to plug anything? Or?
Like I say, my name is Richard D. Lewis. I am the Paranormal Christian. I've got a book series that I'm working on, the Paranormal Christian series. I've got 2 books on the market right now, working on the third. I'm also a standard journalist as well. I write about many other things, entertainment, sports. There's many ways you can connect to me on richarddlewisauthor.com, and also you can find my books on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com, and any place where they sell books, you can go and ask for your copy of The Paranormal Christian.